You upgraded?
Yeah.
Dang, girl! Congrats. Is this the first one? I'm so good for you.
Hey, welcome back to A Faster Me. This is the Barry Wolfe Grand Prix put on by Sirius Cycling. And this is the women's P123 race, courtesy of Marlaina Bemis on the camera here. This is Marlaina's first P123 race. She tries to get off the line pretty good. You know, she got off the line in third wheel basically, but she's taking it easy, being a little passive, so letting some of the regular girls get in before she tries to jump on a wheel and just find her way. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of nerves in her first race. This is she's raced with the P123s at Victorville, but that was different. It was a road race, and they're scored separate. But this is her first time, being a registered Cat 3 and actually signing up and trying to compete with the P123. So Marlaina is also one of the ladies that I coach in this race. I coach two women in this race, Marlaina and Camilla. You see her up there with the LABA kit. They're kind of like fire and ice. Camilla has all the fire, super strong. She's just rides with a lot of passion, and 100% Camilla's always going to give it her all. Marlaina's kind of the icy, stone cold, more calm, and kind of a little bit less aggressive, but she also has a little bit of a cheat code, and she just has like a lot of power. She's kind of like never at a shortage of power for the most part, and she has really good fitness. So I'm just going to try to navigate this race for her and say what's going on a little bit of the things that I see in the race. And, in the future, we'll probably be breaking them down together. It's just, we have a lot of films to break down for this weekend. And, all of us are busy and we do our own thing. So not everyone has time to break down films and all that. But we definitely wanted to get some P123 footage because there's not much out there, and I think the ladies would like to kind of see what they're doing and see all the races from a different perspective, and it's things that people can learn from. So I think that's Sherry right there from Sirius Cycling. Marlaina's just trying to find a spot to sit in. It's not where I want her to be, but being that it's her first race, didn't really care. Just kind of told her to go out there, have fun, don't worry about anything. She's out there riding solo, so she's not responsible for covering any moves or making any moves or anything like that. She can just feel it out and kind of, do what she feels comfortable with. And, we'll build on the season and definitely be ready for next season. So, being that I raced this course earlier too, basically it's a little bit unique shaped as far as looking at the map on the left up there. That first turn reminded a lot of people of Redlands, but honestly it's nothing like Redlands. Redlands is really sharp, decreasing radius, kind of off camber turn on turn one. This one looks like it's decreasing radius, but honestly you can use the left side of the road coming out of the turn, and it's really not that tight. It looks tight coming into it, but if you just hit the apex and run it wide, you really don't have to turn that tight. You really do not have to scrub that much speed, and you technically can just pedal all the way through it anyway. This part here is a little kink, and when you're riding it, you don't even feel that turn that's right here. It's really just a little bend in the road, but it feels like just a long backstretch. There's a little bit of a headwind on this backstretch, and you can see the speed is down. It's kind of coffee ride time right now. The ladies are just cruising. But anytime you get the speed slow like this, it's not going to be too long that someone's going to launch an attack. That's just what it is. When it's slow, someone launches attack. I'm very proud of Marlaina right here being fifth wheel. In her first race, first P12 race, just kind of jumping up to the front. And there it goes. I think that's Holly. Holly goes off from DNA. And if it's not Holly, it's Annette, but I think it's Holly this time. And like I said, anytime you get down to low 20s, as fast as these women are, someone's going to get bored and they're going to jump on it. They're going to see that opportunity and they're going to attack. Holly launches an attack, and it's going to put a little sting in the field. Everyone's going to have to accelerate out. And those surges is what's going to catch people out. So if the pace is really steady, it's a lot easier. The draft gets magnified, and you get into a rhythm, and your body can kind of adjust and handle that. When it's stop and go, a lot of people get caught out with those surges, and it just takes a lot of power out of your legs, a little punch out of your legs. So, like I said, Marlaina's not really worried about much. I'm not trying to brag on her or anything like that, but she really does have a lot of power, and she usually can just latch back on. She can get back onto the draft and latch back on. She's a hard rider to drop, so in the future I expect her to be a little bit more in the mix. But for this first race, it's basically she's just feeling it out and seeing what she can do here. And for everyone that moves up, as you can see there, like she drifted to the left, like she almost wanted to go at that move and just kind of hesitated a little bit and let it go off the left side. So there's nothing wrong with that. Again, you're going to get comfortable eventually, but at the moment she doesn't know like if she belongs yet. And everyone, when they step up to a new category, they have to feel it out, and at some point they're going to get convinced like, hey, I belong here. So you can see compared to last time, it's really stretched out. 22 miles per hour was on the first lap coming through here. Now they're up to 29. So yeah, the pace is pretty hot right here. And honestly, on this back stretch, it can be like this like every time. There is a little headwind though, like I said, so whoever's on the front does have to put in a little more effort. But for the most part, it's slightly downhill here and then slightly uphill on the front. So as you can see, like we were saying before, it's going to be a lot of stop and go, a lot of attacks, and that's just different team tactics. There's not a lot of large teams in here. Obviously, Incycle Mamis have like the largest numbers, as you can see the pink jerseys. As far as I remember, a couple serious cycling riders, a couple DNA, and I think everyone else is kind of solo. So yeah, you got basically one larger team and then two other teams with a couple riders each. So there's definitely going to be a little bit of team dynamics, but just not as much when you have like larger numbers. So here's a two-part. You can see it's a little false flat here on the front straight, so it's slightly uphill. But the good thing is there was a little bit of a tailwind, like a slight cross tailwind here. I believe it's coming off the left side. So if you see in some of the races, this race as well, you're going to see people hugging the right side a lot. And the reason why you do that when you're on the front straight and hugging that right side is anyone that passes you is going to have to pass to the left. And even though it's a slight tailwind, but it's a little bit of crosswind, so it's still a little bit tougher effort going on the left side if you force your opponents to go on the left. If you allow them to go on the right side, they're going to be shielded just a little bit and slight tailwind as well. So you definitely don't want to do any favors for anyone. So here's, again, you see they took the turn there and ran it to the left side, carried a little bit more speed, went through at 27 miles per hour, came out at 28, opposed to the first lap when everyone took it real tight and hugged the right side. But yeah, anytime they want to carry some speed through there, you can just run it to the left side out by the cones, and you'll just keep your momentum and run the speed out a little better. All right, so here we go. They hit the pause button again. For Marlaina, she could have taken advantage of this. Anytime the peloton slows down, it's a great opportunity for you to move up, especially if you're struggling or if you're having trouble holding on. I know a lot of people get kind of a little nervous. They don't want to really be at the front of the ride or whatever, or the group. But when it's going to slow down like this, you definitely have to take advantage of it. Just move up a few spots, get up to about fourth, fifth wheel. You don't have to be on the very front. And even if you are, it doesn't matter because you get to choose what effort level you put in. But you definitely want to make up spots here if you're struggling at all with fitness, or if you're at risk of getting dropped. You can't just sit into the peloton when everyone else slows down. You want to move up to to a decent spot or to whatever spot you want to be in. But if you're sitting on the back, you're going to get caught in the washing machine when the next attack goes off, and it's going to stretch out again really fast. You see Camilla right there to the right side, just kind of chilling. Camilla's super strong. I've been coaching Camilla for about a year now, and I'm just waiting to get her on a podium or a win, in the P123s, and just cap off our progress that we've been making. She's gained a ton of watts like over the last year, and just so much stronger in all these races, and she's just doing a great job, having a really good season. And there it goes again, attack number 2 or attack number 3. Marlaina gets a little confused here. She starts yelling out left side. Obviously that's on the right side, so just probably a little bit of nerves or whatever, and she's a little slow on the trigger, so definitely couldn't jump on it, and Georgetta went ahead and jumped on it. Shout out to Renee too, right there. This is Renee's first race back also. Renee had a crash at that was Tour de Marietta stage 1 in the 3-4-5 race. 4 girls went down: Marlaina, Renee, I think it was Autumn, and India. So this is Renee's first race back since the crash. She did a great job as well. So here Marlena's coasting a little bit. She could just keep pedaling. I know she kind of tail guns a little bit here, which is great. You're gonna carry a little bit of speed through and run right back up to the tail of the peloton. But really she could save a little energy if she just kind of soft pedals through there and not spike watts. And that's Jessica in front of her, Jessica Garner. So Jessica moved up to the P123 ranks this year as well, which is good to see. The field's getting a little bit bigger. I remember a couple years ago, sometimes there's only like 9, 6, 8 girls racing, and I believe we had roughly 20 or so in this race. So definitely good to see the field's getting bigger, and hopefully, hopefully more girls will move up when it's time. I don't want anyone moving up before it's time, especially if you don't have like the bike handling, stuff like that, a little bit of race knowledge. You don't want to move up and be dangerous. You just want to, take your time, move up when it's appropriate, but at the same time, don't be afraid to compete. So you guys are probably starting to notice a pattern here. It's kind of attacks on the front side, attack halfway down the back side, or the front straight and the back straight. That's kind of like been the theme for the last couple laps. I always preach that you basically want to, attack for when it's going to change of speed, when it's going to go from like slow to fast, sometime from fast to slow, depends on, if it's an uphill battle or not, or uphill course or not. But on something like this, you definitely want to attack when it's going to go from slow to fast. It's just a good way to get some separation and then make everyone do kind of equal amount of watts to get back onto you. You can see here and there too, like, it's competitive, especially when you have a smaller field like this and you have women that are so strong. It's going to get strung out a lot. And unfortunately, when it gets strung out like this, it's pretty much single file, and you need to be on a wheel. So if you see mid-pack, there's always a lot of, I say this word lightly, it's fighting for a wheel. And I don't mean that in like anybody's doing anything wrong. It's just that you basically have to be on a wheel. It's going to get single file, and you don't want to be the one caught out without a wheel riding on the side of the peloton. So if it's a bigger field, it's a little easier to hide and draft a little bit. But when it gets stretched out like this, it's vitally important to hold a wheel. And if these girls decide not to slow down, it's game over if you're not on a wheel. So you're always going to see some people jockeying from position. I always preach, instead of fighting with your elbows, fight with your bike position. Get your handlebars in front of your competitor, and unfortunately you have to slowly squeeze them out for that wheel. And I don't mean anything dangerous, definitely do not mean any contact, but I see it often. People are told to stick their elbows out, and I think that's not the right thing, especially for most riders. Once you get to a different level, when you're let's say a bike handling expert or something, it's a little bit different. You have a little bit more tools in the bag, a little bit more options. But I say for the most riders, for the average person, especially since a lot of people do not practice these things, when you're fighting for a wheel, you want to fight by using bike position, not by using body parts. And that's typically getting your handlebars, your front wheel in front of the other rider, and then kind of squeeze out. That rider that's out of position should be smart enough to back off or to regain position on you, one or the other, but not be stubborn and try to still battle for a position that they've already lost. So just my 2 cents, you know. And obviously I'm not in this race, so I'm not speaking about anyone particular. I'm just kind of pointing some things out and just, you know, trying to focus on what I'm seeing up front with some of the battles going on once it stretches out. And honestly, it's normal. It's nothing special. Happens in every race. And the faster the races are, or I'm sorry, not really the faster, but the more experienced riders there are in the race, it's even less of a deal. You know, you don't hear, you hear people arguing and stuff sometimes, but usually so many things happen in a race and it's just no big deal. It's just part of racing. I see Melissa's right there pushing a little bit of a big gear. And that's just one of the things I talk about a lot too, is cadence and the use of cadence. If you noticed when they were going up the front straight there, Melissa's cadence was slightly slower than everyone around her, which means she's pushing a little bit of a bigger gear. Sometimes that's preference. Also, sometimes that can add a little fatigue in your leg, depending on, you know, what, I don't know, what percentage of energy you're using. See Priscilla doing a little hand gestures, trying to communicate. I don't know if she's communicating to her team or to others, but either way, that's, like I said, that's what happens in races. You know, people need to communicate. Sometimes it's good or positive communication, sometimes it's not, but either way, usually it's necessary. Yeah, I think here, I think, you know, Marlaina's obviously starting to feel a little bit more comfortable here. It's been a couple laps, so, you know, I was on the side of the road there on the back straight, just kind of yelling some things to her, giving her some words of encouragement. And, you know, I was hoping, you know, she started to settle in and feel comfortable. And, you know, ability-wise, I know she has the ability to, you know, compete at this level. And, you know, like I said, once you get comfortable and start believing that you belong there, things get a little bit, I wouldn't say easier, but you kind of find your way, and you kind of find, like, you know, where do I have an advantage, or, you know, where can I compete, and just find my spot and find where I'm strong, if I'm stronger at all than anyone, and if not, just what gives me the best chance for the highest finish. So I'm pretty optimistic that she's going to do well once she settles into the peloton and, you know, starts to, you know, figure out her racecraft. Here again, the pace is pretty hot. You know, 26 is not, you know, really something to brag about, but at the same time, it's strung out. So anytime a race is strung out, that means it's fast, at least for the conditions, because if it wasn't, everybody would, you know, bunch up a little bit and, you know, make up some spots or try to gain positions. So anytime it's stretched out, no matter what the speed is, it means it's at least fast for the conditions. So Sherry, I think, started struggling a little bit there, so Marlaina went around and came back up to the front here, or up to the tail of the snake. Can't tell who that is up on the front driving the pace, but whoever it is keeping it pretty decent. It's not, you know, it's not extremely hot, but they're at least making people work for it and have it stretched out. Again, if you let it slow down too much, there's going to be another attack. And if you don't want to keep chasing moves, then you got to kind of string it out. Someone has to sacrifice a little bit and set tempo. And also, there's something to point out. Marlaina has. I said already, she has a lot of power, but she also has a beautiful cadence. I would say sometimes it could be slightly too high. She can push like maybe one gear heavier, especially when it's going fast, just to maintain speed a little bit easier, and could actually control her heart rate a little bit too. Drop her heart rate down a couple beats. But it's a good thing to have or a good problem to have because. And there goes another move here. You can see, again, Marlaina drifts a little bit, but she's not really comfortable going with it. So she just kind of lets it go. But, with the cadence thing, it's actually a good problem to have because when you start coaching people, especially the newer they are to cycling, almost everyone has a cadence that's way too slow. In theory, everyone says everyone's different, but in reality, it's simply not the case. People are not as different as they want to be. Anytime you're talking about racing or fast group rides, you have to have a cadence that's really close to the peloton or to the average cadence of the rest of the group, because if not, you cannot match accelerations. You can say you like a slow cadence and you're comfortable at a slow cadence, but anytime someone attacks or the pace goes up, you're going to have a hard time accelerating and getting the same type of acceleration as the rest of the group if you're pushing a much bigger gear. So if you're really that strong to push like a really slow cadence, you're going to be in you're in too easy of a category. And once you get to like P123, there is no higher category or whatever. So more than likely, you're not going to be able to push a really big gear and match accelerations. So with Marlaina having a cadence that's, very close to 100, it's easier to slow down than it is to speed up. It takes people a couple weeks, sometimes a couple months to really improve their cadence. But when you have a fast cadence, it's a lot easier to just click one gear harder. Your legs won't like it at first, but they will adjust. So something like now, going 29 miles per hour, she could actually click one gear harder and it'd be easier to just maintain the speed. Instead of pedaling at 100. Keeps your heart rate a little bit higher also. That was another opportunity too, where she could have moved up just using a little momentum around the outside. I just think it's still a situation of just not being comfortable there. So this is what I was talking about here. If you see Melissa's in slightly heavier gear, you can tell like even Georgetta's feet were moving faster than Melissa's. And you can see it took Melissa a little bit more time to get back to the wheel again. And then if you see Marlaina, fast cadence, you see how fast she catches back up to Melissa's wheel. That's what I was just trying to explain. Acceleration is, when you have the cadence differences, someone running a little bit bigger gear and a slower cadence, it's going to use a little bit more muscle, and there's going to be a delay in acceleration. When you're able to have a little bit faster cadence and spin it up, you're going to accelerate a lot easier. Again, Marlaina's probably a little bit high for me, but I coach her, so I know she always has a high cadence. I like to aim for more like in the mid-90s, 90 to about 95. But, she's been hovering around 100 most of the race. Obvious too, especially for any of the women in like the 4 or 5 category that watches this race, please pay attention to some of the lines the ladies are taking. I talk about it all the time on your races as well, but as you can see, they're taking much better approaches to the corner, definitely hitting better apexes, things like that. And as you can tell, obviously they're going to carry more speed because they're stronger riders, but a lot of carrying speed is line choice and just holding momentum. I believe that's Maria Benson right there from the Mommies in front of Marlaina. She's getting a lot of camera time. So here's another opportunity for Marlaina to move up when people are coasting. Just takes a couple more pedals, you know, just 3, 4, 5 more pedals to keep your momentum going and just move up a couple spots. You don't have to kamikaze it and come in all hard, you know, trying to move up spots. You can move up 2, 3 at a time, 1 at a time even, doesn't matter. But anytime it gets slow or people are coasting, just like Melissa's doing now, you could take advantage and just kind of move up. So here's a little bit tight approach to that corner, but the speed is not that high. It was at 26 miles per hour. So when it's not that high, you can basically choose a different line. You can go a little bit tighter when the speeds are not high. Obviously, like say the last lap or so, you know, going over 30 miles per hour, you're going to take a little bit of wider approach there. As you see the move going off the left side there. I didn't get to see who started that move though. And yeah, I think there's only 2 girls too from Lagrange in this one. I think it's just Renee and Morgan. I can't remember if they had 3 or not. You know, just earlier when I was naming teams, I can't remember if they have 3 from Lagrange or if it's just 2 women from Lagrange this race. See, Morgan took the corner with the, the Valentino Rossi knee out. I'm very familiar with that from motorcycle racing. Yeah, it's definitely getting a little spicy now. These last couple laps, I think there's been 3 attacks so far in 1 lap. So it's definitely getting spicy and stretching out. You see there, Marlaina and the young lady there, 118, is getting gapped a little bit. So Marlaina goes around and accelerates a little to come back onto the, get back onto the back of the peloton. I don't know what's going on with her power meter right there. I'm guessing it's glitching a little bit, unless she really coasted, to get back on. But I would doubt it. I would doubt it. I think her power meter might have glitched a little right there with these low watts. Goes getting a little spicy again up on that right side. I don't know who's attacking up there, but can't see up at the front, but definitely getting a little spicy up at the front there, up to 27 miles per hour. Got Georgetta right here to Marlaina's right. Definitely big shout out to Georgetta and Holly Breck, doing the P123s. And as soon as this race is over, they basically change their number, change a jersey, and jump right into the open P123 race. And that one was very hot this weekend. There was breakaways left and right, and everyone had their tongue out. So definitely had a hot pace in the open P123 as well. There's Camilla there too, moving up on the right side, right in front of the rider from Tarun. So yeah, it's been like I said, it's kind of been the theme of this race. Like halfway down this back straight, I don't know why, but the speed just stops. You know, come out of turn one, carrying 28 miles per hour or so, carry that speed down to about the halfway point, and then everyone just sits up. I think Renee may have turned in a little bit early right there and saw that she was hitting too early of an apex and had to adjust mid-turn. I'm a big fan of turning slightly later, hitting a neutral to late apex, and not typically hitting too early of an apex. I mean, unless you're at the front and you get to dictate the line. But other than that, I like to hit like a neutral to late apex. And the only time I really recommend hitting an early apex is if you're gonna completely run it to the outside, or if it's like two quick turns, like a double apex turn. You can see here Renee was pushing a little bit bigger gear for a little bit too until she caught back on. And then you can see then she started spinning it up a little bit once she got back onto the wheel. And there we go again, another attack off the left. I think DNA was really, really testing people, really testing the legs. You know, like they say, sometimes you have to ask the question and see if anybody has the answer. So I think DNA with Holly and Annette, I think they're just kind of tag teaming some of these breakaways here. I mean, some of these attacks here. This time the reaction is just not the same. Not everybody reacted, so, you know, small break off the front right now. You know, also when you take the step up to P123, you know, you hear a lot of people trying to compare, you know, speeds. They try to compare averages. You know, what do you average? What do we average? I know I hear sometimes the ladies in the 4-5 race, you know, they may average 22, high 22s, and then they'll look at the women's pro time and they'll see that the women did 23 something or maybe 24 miles per hour, and they'll think like, oh, that's not that different, you know? And it's not, but there is a big difference between a 30-minute race and a 50-minute race, and there's a big difference of how that speed was generated. You know, if you're kind of going a steady pace of 22 miles per hour for 30 minutes, it's not really that taxing on your body and on your legs than it is if you're going, you know, 22 miles per hour one lap, then 30 miles per hour, or 28, 27 miles per hour for a lap with all these attacks. That's a lot harder on your body and a lot more taxing, and for a longer duration. So yeah, there is a big difference, or can be a big difference, and really you have to. Everyone should be doing it already. Everyone should be training definitely way more than their event, you know, to last longer than their event. You know, so if you have a 30-minute event, obviously you're going to be training to where you can last, let's say, an hour or whatever the case may be, even more. All of our local group rides are longer than that, you know. So, yeah, so there is a difference, and it's not really something to compare to. It's really, you know, a lot of it is just tactics. A lot of people are fit, you know, at every level. There's people that are fit, but just having the experience and then being efficient, being able to carry speed with less energy, all those kind of things kind of factor in. So I believe the young lady right there in pink or purple, I want to say maybe Shawnee is her name. So I believe she's lapped already, because I think her, Jessica, and maybe Sherry got lapped. I know for sure they fell off the back and got lapped at some point, I believe. So kind of mixed opinion here, and it's nothing against her, but I just think when you're lapped, you should not be kind of like in the mix again. if you sat on the back of the peloton, like completely behind everybody that's on the lead lap, no big deal. But if you're kind of like in the mix or in between people, I don't think that should be the case. I think the officials should actually do something about it. But like I said, it's nothing against anyone in particular. Um, if you guys have an opinion, let me know in the comments. I have read the rules on it before, and technically in crits, they say you can jump back into the back of the peloton, but it also states that you cannot interfere, you cannot gain speed from anyone that's on a separate lap than you, and you cannot aid anyone that's on a separate lap than you. But, it happens all the time, and if the officials allow it, then it's hard to say people shouldn't be doing it. Personally, I don't think people should. I would hate for someone that's lapped to either cause an incident or be in an incident to take someone out that's on like a lead lap, or even to interfere with someone that's on a lead lap. So, I know we like to keep everyone in the races, but I think when you're lapped, you had your chance, you fell off the back. So just move aside, let the peloton come through, and it's gone. That's the beauty of racing. Is doesn't matter if you're fast, not fast. You have to do it on that day of the race. And if you miss your opportunity, it's just an opportunity gone. You got to get it on the next one. So, again, I'm not talking about anyone specific. I'm just saying in general. Let me know what you guys think about that, especially since I'm not a woman. I'm not in the P123 races. So, yeah, ladies, let me know what you guys think. If you think it should be allowed, or if you think people that are lapped should have to move aside and let the peloton through. I believe that's Holly right there. I said Holly earlier and Annette earlier, but honestly, I get them confused when they're in the kits. I've known Holly since I started riding. It's probably, not exactly when I started riding, but when I started riding seriously. She's one of the first few people I met just because I was in Incycle all the time. So obviously I know who she is, but yeah, when she throws on the DNA kit, I'm just like, that's Holly, and half the time it's not her. So, it's funny. I just said I met Holly a long time ago, and I think to this day, I've never ridden with her. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think I've ever ridden with her or even been in a ride with her at the same time. And it's crazy because, I don't know, since I've met her, I have like 50,000 miles on our bikes or something, been on a ton of group rides and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think I've ever been in a ride with her so far. All right, things have kind of calmed. It's, still stretched out, so the pace is decent. I wouldn't say it's fast, but it's decent enough that no one's wanting to make a move. Everybody's kind of calmed down, but you can tell there's like no big urgency in the pace right now either. So, and again, we say the same thing. I talked about like the not younger, but the lower categories comparing themselves to pro categories. Like it's easy with the open P123, like, they average 28, 29, 30 miles per hour. So like it's easy to see like, oh, that's a big difference, especially since they're doing longer races also. But like, in our category 4 race early, the open category 4 race, we averaged like 26 something, 26.5 or something like that. And even that's a little misleading, because even though we're averaging like a couple mile per hour faster than the women's P123, we shouldn't get confused, because most of these girls are stronger than we are, some of them by far. And there's a lot of things that play into carrying speed, and sometimes it's the size of the peloton, which we always have a bigger peloton, so we're always going to punch a bigger hole in the air, make it a little easier on us, and it's easier for us to carry momentum. Again, our races are shorter as well, and often we have more raw power than some of the ladies do. but they definitely have us on like sustained power, things like that. And some of them have equal power to us as well. It's just on average, we have a little bit raw power. So once you have raw power, a quick acceleration can get your speed up higher. And then when you're in a big peloton of 75 riders, it's going to hold that speed a lot better because it's punching a bigger hole in the wind. So don't get confused in thinking that you're faster than a lot of these women. We've been on group rides with them, all that kind of stuff. And especially if the road goes up at all, we're getting dropped most of the time. All right, Melissa, I'm gonna pick on you a little bit now. Let me know your cadence, what your average cadence was for this race. I'm no one special. I'm not trying to say I'm, Mr. Know-It-All or anything like that. But yeah, let me know what your cadence is. I think you could benefit from like varying your cadence a little bit. So please don't take that wrong. Don't give me any hate mail or anything. Yeah, you can tell the race is really settled these last couple laps. They're still putting in a hard effort, like the pace is still there. But, on this front straight, it's down a couple miles per hour from the last few laps. And, it's kind of like the quiet before the storm now. There's only a few laps to go. Obviously, people fight for the Prix still, and especially when the Prix are money. I think there was at the start of the race, I think there was a purse of about $2,000 for the top five, split between the top five for this race. So, yeah, and then you're handing out cash Prims. People are going to go for them. But, yeah, now coming down to the last few laps of the race or whatever, I think there's maybe 3-4 laps to go. And, yeah, so it's basically just the quiet before the storm now. The pace started off pretty fast too. I remember I was timing, I think it was the Masters men, maybe 40 plus race. And I think, I don't remember which race it was. I just know like John Garbo from Go Fast was in a breakaway with a few guys. And I think they were turning laps at like a 2:15, 2:20 pace. And I want to say the women's P123 race, this race right here, the first lap, if I'm not mistaken, was really hot. It was something like 2:30, 2:35. So that was really hot. And then it slowed down a little bit after that. But yeah, that's a really hot first lap. All right, they're moving now down this back straight. Like I said, it's only a few laps to go now. Much better line here, as you can see, carrying a lot more speed. Marlaina definitely could have carried more speed through that corner there. And being that you left a little gap here, you really could have just carried a lot more speed through there. Took a little bit better approach by yourself here. You can obviously choose your own line since you're by yourself. But again, it does amaze me how she's able to just like catch back up like every time. Not just in this race, but just in general. Helps too when everybody slows down, other than one of the DNA girls are attacking as soon as that pace hits 22, 23 miles per hour. But this time it's not them. They're not the culprit, because I believe I see Holly and her teammate right there. So I'm not sure who took that attack off the front this time. It may have been Melissa, since she's kind of going backwards a little bit right there. So that may have been her that kind of, boosted the pace real quick and helping out her team. That's one of the things that's also good, that I would hope people would emphasize a little more. You see Priscilla too made a little move up the inside there. She just hugged it tight, turned it real tight, and That's just kind of the difference of skill levels. If you do that at a lower level, everyone's going to yell dive bombing, which in theory, anytime you take the inside line and overtake someone, someone can yell that. But there's a big difference in skill level there. There was nothing dangerous. There was room there. She did exactly what she was supposed to do. She came up the inside, hugged it tight, turned it tight. She didn't run across the lanes, across people's wheels or anything like that. So that's part of things like that when you move up to a higher level. It's more, bike handling's different, skill level's different. The amount of room you need to make a move and pull off a move is different. And the amount of room people give you and just the understanding of how racing works and how the flow of the race is going, it's different. Riders know to give someone room when they see them coming, or they know how to shut it down appropriately without making it a dangerous situation. So don't think that every rule applies to everyone the same way in all situations, because there's always going to be a little context there and different applications sometimes. Definitely the quiet before the storm now, because you see this is the slowest it's been on this front straight here in the last, I don't know, since the last half of the race. This is basically the slowest it's been going up this front straight. So it looks like it's about, I don't know if it's 2 laps or, I couldn't tell if that was the bell lap or not. Yeah, I want to say that might have been the bell lap there, so this might be the last lap here. So yeah, one of the things I was kind of telling Marlaina is it's her first race, and she's taking it easy. She's playing it safe, for the most part, just trying to get the feel of it and just see how the tactics work. And again, you got to convince yourself you belong there as well. But I kind of try to shout to her, hey, you're there right now. You're 1 second off the front of a P123 race. And it doesn't matter who's faster now at this point. Doesn't matter who's the fastest. Doesn't matter who's the strongest. If someone allows you to hang around and you're there on that last lap, try to take advantage of it, You're there. And when it's, less than 1 mile to go, sometimes it's hard to catch people. So if the group allows you to be in the mix, and it's a 1 minute effort or whatever the case may be, make the most of it. Maybe it's luck, maybe it's just the way it played out, maybe you earned it, but either way it goes, last lap, it's your first race and you're there now. But obviously, I'm just talking at the moment, honestly. I'm just talking for anyone's confidence if you find yourself in this position, because as you can see, Marlaina has ability. She could be up closer, but she's kind of just taking it easy. But yeah, she could easily be up, a different 4, 5, 8 bikes up in front of her. Comes around the corner, kind of tries to launch a little sprint here. Marlaina has good power. She didn't really have the greatest sprint here. But, you can see how far back she starts off. But then you can also see what kind of speed she carries coming up solo. She's not drafting anybody. She's in the wind, pushing her own wind. Morgan is a pretty good sprinter here on the track, and look at the closing speed here. So yeah, 12th place finish for her first race, and it can only get better from here as she gains some confidence and just, starts believing that she belongs there. And yeah, we're going to do a lot better in the future. So great job for Camilla. I believe Camilla got 7th place as well. And yeah, we'll catch you guys next time. But yeah, please leave some comments. Hopefully I didn't offend anyone or anything like that. Like I said, I'm not in these races, but definitely want to showcase them more on the channel and just get the, show the P123 women some love, since everyone else has videos out. So why not you guys have some videos as well? Thanks for watching.